Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Go Slow English. I am Zara, and I am so happy you could join us today for another episode where we take our time to master the English language together. Hi there, Leo. How are you doing today? It is so wonderful to see you again.
Hello, Zara. I am doing great. Thank you for asking. I have actually had a very productive morning. I spent about 2 hours finally organizing my old bookshelf in the corner of my living room. You know, the one that has been overflowing with old magazines and half-finished novels for months.
Oh, I know that bookshelf very well, Leo. It is a bit of a legend in your house. Did you find any hidden treasures in there?
I actually did. I found an old photo album from my trip to the mountains 5 years ago. It was so nostalgic to look through those pictures. I also found about 5 different bookmarks I thought I had lost forever. It is funny how cleaning and organizing can make you feel like you have a brand new start, isn't it?
It absolutely does. I did something similar with my kitchen pantry last week. I found 3 jars of honey that I didn't know I had. I guess I really like honey, but it feels so much better now that I can actually see what I have. There is a real sense of peace in knowing exactly where everything is located.
That is so true, Zara. Having a clear sense of location and where things belong is very satisfying. And that feeling of clarity is actually a perfect transition into our topic for today. Speaking of knowing where things are located and how to find them, today we are going to dive deep into a very practical topic: how to talk about and write your address in English.
That is right, Leo. Knowing how to correctly say and write an address is such an essential skill, especially if you are living, working, or traveling in an English-speaking country. Whether you are filling out a form at the bank, ordering something online, or just telling a friend how to get to your house, you need to be precise. In many parts of the world, the order of an address can be quite different. In English-speaking countries like the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia, we generally follow a specific sequence that goes from the most specific information to the most general information. This means we start with the house or building number first. This can be a bit confusing for students who come from countries where the street name comes before the number. Leo, could you explain how we handle those house numbers when we are speaking?
I would be happy to, Zara. When we talk about our house or building number, we usually say the numbers individually or in small groups. For example, if your house number is 123, you could say 123 or 123. If the number is larger, like 4502, we often split it into 2 parts and say 4502. It is very common to say 0 as O in addresses, so someone might say 4502. After the number, we immediately give the name of the street. This is where it gets interesting because there are so many different words for a road. We have street, road, avenue, boulevard, lane, drive, and court. It is very important to use the correct word because 123 Main Street is a completely different location than 123 Main Avenue. Zara, what are some of the most common abbreviations our listeners should look out for when they are reading or writing these addresses?
That is a great question. When you see an address written down, you will almost always see abbreviations. Street is abbreviated as ST period, road is RD period, avenue is AVE period, boulevard is BLVD period, and drive is DR period. You might also see lane as LN period or court as CT period. It is important to remember that even though we write ST, we always say the full word street when we are speaking. Now, what if you live in an apartment building? This is where many people get stuck. Usually, the apartment number or unit number comes after the street name. For instance, you would say 123 Main Street, Apartment 4B. In writing, we often shorten apartment to APT period or unit to unit. Some people even use the pound sign or hash symbol, like 123 Main Street, hash 4B. When you are saying this out loud, you would simply say Apartment 4B. It is very straightforward once you get the hang of it, but you have to make sure you don't forget it, or the delivery person will be very confused when they get to your building.
I have definitely had that happen before. If you forget the apartment number, your package might just sit in the lobby forever. Now, moving on to the next part of the address, we have the city, the state or province, and the postal code. In the United States, we use the term zip code, while in the UK, Canada, and Australia, they usually say postcode. This is a series of numbers and sometimes letters that helps the post office sort the mail. For example, in a U.S. address, you might see New York, NY 10001. NY is the abbreviation for the state of New York. Every state has a two-letter abbreviation. California is CA, Texas is TX, and Florida is FL. When you are speaking, you usually say the full name of the city and the state, followed by the zip code digits one by one. So I would say, I live in New York, 10001. Zara, do you have any tips for how to ask someone for their address politely?
Yes, context is everything. If you are in a formal situation, like at a doctor's office, they might ask, "What is your current place of residence?" Or simply, "Could you please confirm your mailing address?" In a more casual setting with a friend, you would just say, "What's your address?" or "Where do you live?" If you are planning to visit them, you might say, "Can you send me your address so I can put it in my GPS?" It is also helpful to know how to clarify an address if you didn't hear it correctly. You can say, "I'm sorry, did you say street or avenue?" Or, "Could you spell the name of the street for me?" Many street names in English can have unusual spellings, so never be afraid to ask someone to spell it out. It is much better to ask for clarification than to end up at the wrong house.
Speaking of ending up at the wrong house, I have a funny story about that. A few years ago, when I first moved to a new city, I was invited to a housewarming party. The friend told me the address was 502 West Oak. Now, I didn't realize that there was a West Oak Street and a West Oak Avenue only 2 blocks away from each other. I drove to 502 West Street, walked up to the door with a big bouquet of flowers and a box of chocolates, and knocked. A very confused elderly man answered the door. He looked at me, looked at the flowers, and said, "I think you have the wrong house, son, unless my secret admirer has finally found me." We both had a good laugh once I realized my mistake, but I was so embarrassed. I eventually found the right place on West Oak Avenue, but I was 30 minutes late to the party. Ever since then, I always double-check the suffix of the street name. It really does make a difference.
That is such a classic mistake, Leo. I think almost everyone has done something similar at least once. It really highlights why paying attention to those small words like street versus avenue is so vital. Another thing to consider are the directionals. In many North American cities, you will see north, south, east, or west as part of the address, like 100 East Broadway. This usually indicates which side of a dividing line the address is on. If you leave that out, you could be miles away from your destination. When writing an envelope, remember to put your own address in the top left corner. This is called the return address. The recipient's address goes right in the center. This ensures that if the letter cannot be delivered, it will be sent back to you. We should also mention that for international mail, you must add the name of the country in all capital letters on the very last line. For example, you would write USA or United Kingdom at the bottom.
That is a great point about the return address. It is also good to mention how to handle business addresses. Often, a business address will include the name of the company on the first line, then the person's name or department, followed by the street address. For example, Global Tech Solutions, Attention, Marketing Department, 500 Corporate Way, Suite 200, Seattle, WA 98101. The attention line is often abbreviated as ATTN period. This helps the mailroom get the letter to the right person quickly. Zara, before we wrap up, do you want to quickly go over how to say phone numbers in relation to addresses? Because often when you give an address, you also have to give a phone number.
Certainly. Just like with house numbers, we usually say phone numbers digit by digit. For a number like 555-0199, we would say 555-0199. Again, the 0 is often pronounced as O. If there are two of the same number together, like 55, some people might say 55, especially in the UK. In the US, we mostly just say each digit separately. It's all about being clear and giving the listener time to write it down. If you are giving your address or phone number over the phone, it's very helpful to speak slowly and clearly. You can even offer to repeat it by saying, "Would you like me to say that again?" or "Did you get all of that?" These small phrases make the communication much smoother for everyone involved. Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, from house numbers and street suffixes to apartment units and international shipping. We hope this episode helps you feel much more confident the next time you need to share your location. Thank you so much for joining us on Go Slow English. We love having you here. Don't forget to practice by writing out your own address or a fictional one to get the formatting just right. Until next time, I'm Zara.
And I'm Leo. Happy learning, everyone. Goodbye.